Oh, look at it. Look at it. We have a bracket, and it is glorious. Thank you all for joining us as we talk the Wisconsin Badgers in just a brutal sub-region out in Brooklyn. Man, if you're a Badgers fan, I am sorry because you are look, if you're affording those tickets, good for you. Good for you because you got Duke, you got UConn in that sub-region. The ticket prices just went up big over in Brooklyn for those Wisconsin Badgers NCAA tournament games in March Madness. If you are joining us now live, you can click the link in the show description. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go to my Twitter bio and click the link there. Head up on StreamYard. We're taking all of your comments, all of your calls, talking all things bracket, talking the Big Ten tournament final. We are out here because it is time. It is March. It is madness. And we have you all covered here on the Scotty Six Pack podcast. Happy March. Thank you for enjoying it with a six pack. Talking all things Wisconsin sports with you 6 days a week. Look, Wisconsin gets a very difficult draw. I'm going to try to pull up the bracket on the screen here. But Wisconsin has to play the James Madison Dukes in the first round. And this is a James Madison team that has been excellent all season long. Had a little bit of a slide, but they won 31 games. They won 31 games and were the story of college basketball basically for 2 months to start the year after they had that awesome overtime victory over Michigan State on the very first day of the season to kick it off. This James Madison Dukes team ran through a Sun Belt conference that is impressive. And as a 12 seed is, I mean, arguably underseeded here. Their numbers aren't going to totally reflect it. The James Madison Dukes are 59th at KenPom. It's a solid enough team to be there. They deserve to be there. But this is a matchup that Wisconsin is going to have a difficult time with, quite frankly, and then go on have to play Duke in the round right after. Either that or Vermont, and Vermont might show up in this Brooklyn sub-regional and play really well themselves. That's a 5-hour drive-ish from Burlington down to Brooklyn. Now, like I said, it's Duke and UConn fans. Those prices are going up. I don't know if the sheer numbers of Duke and UConn fans are going to buy up all of these full session passes and squeeze just the availability of seats out from a smaller fan base like Vermont. But man, storylines galore in this sub-regional between a potential national championship rematch from 2015 against Duke. I don't think Wisconsin has played Duke since that season where the Badgers and Blue Devils faced off twice that year. The potential of a James Madison Dukes versus Duke Blue Devils matchup in that second round, I think, and I'm Marquette fans are a little bit scared. If you want to talk some Marquette while we're here, they seem to be a little bit spooked about the potential path for Marquette to get to the second weekend. It's tough, but frankly, Florida, without its starting center who broke his leg in today's SEC tournament title game, that might present some genuine challenges for that Gators team that has otherwise been pretty good this year. Now, the Boise State Colorado game down there is a game between two good bubble teams. And I think Boise State is probably underseeded, but let's continue talking about the Badgers for a minute here, because the James Madison Dukes are riding the country's longest winning streak right now. They have a 13 game winning streak. And part of the reason that Wisconsin is playing so well right now is that they are absolutely shooting the lights out of the three. Of course, lost to Illinois today in the Big Ten tournament title game, but James Madison has the number 2 3-point defense in the country by field goal percentage allowed from deep. James Madison forces teams into long, lengthy possessions. They have a really solid offense, a really solid defense. Mark Byington is a very, very smart, very, very impressive head coach. And it's a James Madison team that likes to play at a high tempo. I said that they force people into long possessions. I said that completely backwards. I am sorry. They do run up and down the court very quickly, one of the fastest tempos in the entire country. They make a lot of assists, and they stop teams from getting a lot of assists. They are very good at stopping teams at spreading the ball around, not letting teams take big advantage of space. Their assist to field goal made, what's the word I'm looking for? Their assist to field goal made ratio is 17th best in the country. They do not let teams get assists. That is very impressive for the James Madison Dukes. They're not a great blocking team. I think that's good for the Badgers in this matchup. Their starting center, TJ Bickerstaff, is only 6'9". That's an advantage that Stephen Crowell could take advantage of. He has had an excellent week in Minneapolis, and Wisconsin just plays better when Stephen Crowell is firing on all cylinders. And against a TJ Bickerstaff who has 3 inches below what Stephen Crowell's listed height is, that could be good for the Badgers. Not a lot of guys with a lot of height there. Xavier Brown is pretty small at the point guard position. He is 6'2". But I think the Badgers are positioned to, I don't know. I said yesterday, Badgers Sweet 16 Sharpie. I don't know that I can say that anymore after seeing what has gone on here with these 12 seeds overall. I really didn't want to play McNeese State. I'm glad that Wisconsin does not have to deal with them. They got to go and play Gonzaga, a overseeded Gonzaga team. Gonzaga with a 5. I know T3 Bracketology, who's been on this show before, he thought that Gonzaga was going to end up being more like a 7 seed. So for them to get up on the 5 line is potentially a gift to McNeese State, coached there by Will Wade, who's got that program firing on all cylinders right now. But like I said, if you want to talk brackets, if you want to talk about Wisconsin basketball, their matchup in the first round of the NCAA tournament in Brooklyn. Also, if anybody knows which day that is, if Brooklyn is a Thursday, Saturday region or a Friday, Sunday region, let me know in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube or in the replies on X, the website formerly known as Twitter, let me know if you are here. We are taking everybody's comments. We got a StreamYard link out floating there on my website on my account on the website formerly known as Twitter. You can find me at Kedrick Stumbers or on YouTube, youtube.com/@Scotty6pack. Click the link in the podcast description there in the show description. You'll find that StreamYard link and be able to join us. Get your comments off, get your questions off about teams in this bracket, because we got 68 teams. 68 teams. It's the best day when we get a 68 team bracket. And we can talk about it all. If you got questions about any of these teams in the South region that Wisconsin is playing in, any teams across the bracket, I will do my best. My bio just describes myself as a college basketball sicko. Other places on the internet have called me a college basketball junkie. I have been described by other Badgers creators as he is a freak for this stuff. I might have something for you. Let me know how it goes. Gonna run through some of these comments here. First, one of the CBS guys predicted James Madison to the Sweet 16. Hope the Badgers prove them wrong. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember which guy it was, but he was itching to jump out whatever team name was going to be on the 12 line to win and get to the second weekend, at least get to the second round. Even before that, that name popped up. They just wanted to say right away, Wisconsin is going to lose. Not totally surprised given the way that the season ended, but the Badgers proved some people wrong after the Big Ten tournament, frankly. And I thought they played against Illinois really, really well today for the most part. They got into a track meet at the end of it. And frankly, at the very beginning of the second half, too. I mean, 41 points in the first half isn't great either. But Wisconsin kept themselves in it despite having what was it, 11 minutes played by Max Klesmit, not that much more, by Tyler Wall either. I think 11 minutes for both of them in that first half. And Wisconsin held the Illini to 41 first half points. It was a 1-point game at the half. Pretty good overall performance, but it's just not enough. I am going to throw up the full bracket here so that we can enjoy looking at it. If I share my screen, that's going to be a great thing for us to be able to look at. As we get moving here, gonna take a look-see at some of these other comments while we are here. Steve Coplin, who does an excellent job hosting Big Cheese Sports with Bernie Bango, saying, "Hey, let's go Badgers." Yeah, let's go Badgers. Gonna keep this up here for a little while at least. Badgers and Marquette both play on Friday. So big day in Wisconsin sports this Friday as Wisconsin and Marquette both play, both in the South region too. That's a fun thing. I do not think we're going to get an I-94 rivalry matchup in the Elite Eight, but it would be fun if we got it. Trying to respond to people. Yeah, I don't know. If anybody out there wants to talk about the game that just got done, let me know. We'll break that down a little bit. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep talking bracket stuff for a little while. I'm getting a little bit of pushback on my declared death subregion of Salt Lake City in the Midwest. I think it is fair criticism, to be sure, fair criticism. But Salt Lake City in the Midwest, where Gonzaga as a 5 is playing McNeese State, and then Kansas as the 4 plays Samford, I think is a really difficult sub-region. McNeese is really good. McNeese is an awesome team coached by, in my opinion, the best college basketball coach in the country right now. At least one that's, I guess you could say Bill Self, right? Because he has the multiple national titles. He's the only active head coach with multiple national championships. But Will Wade has just won everywhere that he's gone. And the only reason he's not at a big boy program right now is because of breaking rules for things that would not be rule violations under the NCAA if he were to do them today. So he's at McNeese State. He's going to get another job after this year, I think. And he has this program up and running at a 30-3 record. They have the nation's third longest active win streak with 11. James Madison has 13, the Badgers' opponent. 51st ranked offense of the country, 84th ranked defense. They play a pretty slow tempo. They force the longest defensive possessions in the entire country. Am I reading things wrong again? I am definitely reading things wrong again. Or they're 20 off the longest in the country. They let teams shoot a lot of threes, but they do not allow anything on the inside. That McNeese State team is really, really, really good. And then you have Samford, which is coached by you got Bucky McMillan down there coaching, like just awesome mid-major coaches. This whole, man, I think that's really what it is when I'm thinking about the when I'm thinking about how good that Salt Lake City subregional is that I'm thinking about just how good all of the coaches are in that subregion, because you have Gonzaga coached by Mark Few, who created a dynamite power team in a non-power conference on the West Coast. basically out of nothing, right? They made the NCAA tournament, the 1 year just before Gonzaga got there, but before Mark Few got there, but Gonzaga has not missed the tournament the entire time since. That's Mark Few creating something out of seriously nothing. For Badger fans, if you are looking for an analog here, Wisconsin is a great, great, great analog for everything that Mark Few has done in Spokane. Bo Ryan got to Wisconsin and started coaching that team just a year after Dick Bennett took that program to the Final Four. Of course, Dick Bennett, started that season after going to the Final Four and then stepped aside, and then he wanted to anoint his successor, but he didn't get his choice. The athletic department goes the Bo Ryan way, right? But then Bo Ryan picks up exactly where Dick Bennett left off and powers that team to becoming something out of absolutely nothing. Gonzaga is the exact same thing, right? Between that, Gonzaga, and then you have Kansas, Bill Self, the only active head coach with multiple national championships, a coach that is, the head coach of Blue Blood program. The fact that they finished, what was it, 5th in the Big 12 this year. He has not had that many losses in any conference ever. He's one of the best to do it, one of the best to ever do it. Add that on top of Samford at the very end. That's the one guy we haven't really talked about in Bucky McMillan, who he was a high school basketball coach. 4 years ago? He was just coaching high school basketball in Birmingham. And now he is rolling with that team to the NCAA tournament, to March Madness. An all-timer of a NCAA tournament story. If you don't know the Bucky McMillan story, you're going to know it by the end of the week. He is one of the most fascinating stories in college basketball and is, by all accounts, a really, really, really good guy too. And they play just a super, super, super fun brand of basketball. That's a team with a record of 29-5 down in the SoCon, a team that has the 14th quickest pace in the country by adjusted tempo, according to KenPom. They have the 6th shortest offensive possessions in the country, and they shoot the hell out of the ball, man. Just unbelievable. A 39.3% clip on 3-point shooting, 55.5% clip on twos. Just an unreal shooting team. They do turn the ball over a little bit more, but this is the wild thing about teams that typically take care of the ball really well. And those teams also do a good job of forcing turnovers, right? Wisconsin is a great example of this. They don't turn the ball over a ton. They have guys on defense who are focused on turning the ball over a ton. Samford plays the opposite way. This is an erratic team. This is a high variance team in the sense that they turn the ball over quite a bit. They are ranked 256th in the country in turnover percentage, according to KenPom. But on defense, they're the 16th best team in the country at forcing turnovers. A wildly impressive program down there in Birmingham, coached by Bucky McMillan. And that's who Kansas has to play in the first round. And Kansas is banged up. Hunter Dickinson, the big bad man, as Bernie Bango said earlier today on Big Cheese Sports, Bernie Bango identifies as a sicko, wants to be able to knock out Kansas. Fortunately, not going to get the chance in your bracket there unless they both get to the Final Four, and I do not see that happening. But he's banged up. One of Kansas's best other pieces, Kevin McCullough, is banged up. It's a team that's going to have a really hard time against a Bucky McMillan team that has just nothing to lose whatsoever. Should be a blast watching that subregion. One of the best things that I want to look for, and a team that didn't lose a game from November 11th to January 23rd this season. They did not lose for 2.5 months at one point in time. A just absolutely fantastic Samford team as we continue breaking down the bracket. But if we want to break down some more of Wisconsin Badgers stuff here or Marquette, let me know if you have any questions that we want to talk about as we take stuff away from the bracket. Hit that YouTube channel, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Scotty6pack. There's a link there in the show description. You can also find me on Twitter, twitter.com/@KedrickStumbris, and you'll find a link from StreamYard there to join the show, get your comments in. We'll address all of it for you as we continue to take comments from YouTube live as well here as we are looking at the bracket. Did it myself, pencil and paper, as you know, I am one to do. Love doing it. Sit down on that couch, fill out the whole thing along the way. Just find it easier. I like that, you know, while they go like half region by half region, I'm still thinking about the previous regions in the bracket as they're getting revealed on the selection show. And so actually having the bracket as it has been constructed before I can actually go online and get the full thing all at once, I want to have the half that was already out before I get to the second half as they reveal it on the show. That's, you know, maybe I'm a nerd. I don't know who else owns a pencil besides weirdos like me who do stuff like this so that they can fill out brackets that are already on the internet and who score baseball games for fun when he goes to minor league baseball games and professional baseball games. Maybe I'm a weirdo, and I think that's fine. Sports Talk Network also saying before I lose, I think this is also Steven, would be wild if that did happen. Badgers versus Marquette. I mean, yeah, that would be. Look, these two teams are kind of they've had such eventful seasons. Both of them had, especially down the stretch here for Marquette. Oh, well, I mean, especially down the stretch, right? It's both of them. Tyler Kolek a little bit banged up because of that. Cam Jones has been banged up during this season. It's a Marquette team that's kind of hobbled right now, but it is a team that at full strength can play with the best of them. At full strength, had a real chance at being a number one seed, one of those four teams to get on that line. And yeah, that fourth spot goes to North Carolina. Little bit surprising there. But yeah, Marquette, Wisconsin, you know, on a different trajectory right now, of course, playing their best basketball in this exact moment. It's been fun watching these two teams. Been one heck of a week for the Wisconsin Badgers and Marquette looking to have it's great week. And then we got at least one listener who wants to join here. I'll bring in Stevie K. How you doing, Steve? Good to talk to you for the second time today.
Doing well. How are you doing tonight?
Good. What do you got? You got thoughts on bracket? You want to talk Badgers basketball out of the Big Ten tournament final? What's on your?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the bracket. Talk about what we have here with the teams and how everything is set up. I like to say or share that in regards to the Big Ten and seeing that Michigan State and Northwestern. I know we talked about earlier on Big Cheese that I was thinking and wondering those two battling for those last four spots. But in the end, they're just securely in. I was pleasantly surprised to seeing that for them, and for the Big Ten having a good number of teams. Surprisingly, also to see the Badgers and Marquette in the same region. You know, it'd be interesting if we had that battle. We probably won't, but it would be fun, of course. Have a Badgers versus Marquette when it counts the most during the tournament. But yeah, how everything is shaping up, and it's certainly going to be a wild ride. Now, on your end, I was going to ask you a question. Now that the bracket is out, do you see a team from the Dayton playing games or 10 seed or below that you think can make a Cinderella story to the Final Four, let alone the Elite Eight?
Yeah, so there is, I think it's been since the first four has existed, I believe that it's every year but one that one of the teams out of the first four has gotten a win in the first round, actually got into the 64 team bracket and at least won one other game. We get something like that every year. We got on the 16 line last year, courtesy of Fairleigh Dickinson, of course. But yeah, I mean, there's an even better chance of it this year than previous years, frankly, because the bubble is so good this year. There were 4, 5 genuine bid thieves coming out of conference championship week, like you have a power conference team in NC State on the 11 line. That's what this crazy conference championship week has done to the bubble. The bubble, most of the time, is sitting there with these 11 seeds. Basically, with all the bid thieves out there, the bubble got pushed for everybody up a full seed line. I think that the best chance of a win there, we're looking at Virginia, Colorado State, which are one of the 210s, and they are going to play, if I can find my spot here on the bracket. Help me out if I lose it entirely. Otherwise, I found the other one. Otherwise, Virginia, Colorado State are going to play in the 7-10 matchup against Texas, a Texas team that might be overseeded at the 7 line. So I think there's a real shot there. And then the other 10 line is, did I lose it entirely? Boise State, Colorado having to play Florida. Honestly, oh wow, I don't think I could pick one. Like Boise State, Colorado, whoever wins that game is going to go to play Florida, which just lost a big piece in its center in breaking its leg. And then Virginia, Colorado State, these Mountain West teams, I think were a little disrespected in seeding in the bracket. I don't know if Virginia's got to win out of them in the first 4. I guess wouldn't be surprised to see Tony Bennett gut it out. Colorado State also plays a really slow tempo like Virginia, but there's some days where, man, it just doesn't even look like Virginia's going to get up to 40, right? And I don't know what they're going to do in this one. I would take a really good look at whichever one of the two you like in Boise State and Colorado, and say whichever one of those teams you like, I would be very interested in picking them to beat the Florida Gators in the 7-10 line in the South region. I know I babbled for a while.
No, that's fine. Because, there's always that team, there's going to be a team with the lower seeds or a surprising team that makes it all the way to the Final Four, let alone to the Elite Eight, Sweet 16. So certainly was wondering what your thoughts were on that, regarding to what team you think, from a lower seed standpoint, from the first 4 Dayton games, that could make it all the way to the end, in a sense. It'd be wild if one of them made it to a championship game, but with all the top seeded teams, unless there is a surprise, and second ever 16 over 1. I think these 1 seeds are pretty dang strong. So to take any of these 1 seeds out is going to take a perfect game by whoever's playing them, and it's going to be tough to take any of these down. But we're just going to have to see.
Yeah, I mean, as usual, I'm just going to say that's probably almost certainly not going to happen. The ones are of course very, very, very good. And you have at least one really weak 16. Wagner, I have to assume, is the bottom 16 when looking at the full list. They come from the worst college basketball conference in the NEC, the Northeastern Conference, and they were like 17-15 on the season. That's not a good Wagner team. They won their way in thanks to winning a conference tournament over a Merrimack team that has been a class of the NEC over the last few seasons. Merrimack in its first, I think, 2 of 3 or 3 of 5, something like that, seasons in Division I, won the NEC conference all of those years, but they weren't eligible to go to the NCAA tournament because there's that probationary period as you transition up to Division I. So like last year, Florida or Fairleigh Dickinson wasn't even supposed to be in this bracket because they kind of were. It was Merrimack who they had to play in the final, and Merrimack was probably better, and they got in anyway. And Wagner won a bad NEC. Wagner already a pretty bad team. But yeah, if we're talking some of these teams, like first 4 team can get far. VCU did it. Believe that was when Shako was still there. They went first 4 to Final 4. That's not an impossible task. But Colorado State would have a real chance to do that against Texas. That's That's a team with a solid offense, a solid defense. They share the ball really well. That offense flows really, really great through Isaiah Stevens, their senior point guard. He is a guy kind of small in stature, but he can shoot the heck out of the ball when he's at the free throw line. He shoots nearly 43% from three on the season, and they give him the ball a lot, and he's top 10 in assist rate in the entire country. That could give a team like Texas, which struggled. Texas lived on the bubble for most of this season. I think Colorado State could give Texas some real challenges there overall. Were win, loss, win, loss, win, win, loss, loss, basically the entire time through Big 12 play. Not that as a Badger fan, I have a lot to rest my own hat on there, right? But Texas, I think, definitely could be taken off the board there by Colorado State in particular. I know at least some people had Texas down as far as a 9. And then when you look at the other 7-10 matchup, Colorado is on the 10 line, not Colorado State, the Buffaloes rather than the Rams. Colorado's on the 10 line. Colorado's 26th ranked team at KenPom. That is what, a 7 seed? A 7 seed? Like, Colorado arguably really shouldn't be in that playing game, or arguably should be maybe facing one of these play-in game teams. A really good Colorado team that's potentially really underseeded there has to go and play a good Boise State team out of the Mountain West. And a tough draw for Colorado, knowing that they probably really think that they should be in the 64 team bracket. Yeah, I don't know, Steve, you got burning thoughts on any of these play-in games, who you think should or has a real chance at knocking off the 7 and getting to at least the second round, if not the second weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I know, kind of going with what you were saying earlier in regards to, Colorado, in regards to a team like that. It's always fun in regards to the play-in games, because for me, especially with those the 10 seeds battling it out, that they, over the 16s, of course, would have a better chance to make it further, let alone to have a Cinderella story to make it all the way in any capacity. But for Colorado, I think they would be the team to beat overall from any of the playing teams. But like I said, the main thing for me focusing on, of course, is the Big Ten and what can be possible of the Big Ten and who's gonna make it far. I might have an idea what you're gonna say to this, but in regards to the Big Ten teams that are here in the dance, which includes the Badgers, of course, but what team do you think is going to make it the furthest? What team do you think is going to be the last Big Ten team standing?
This is a really good question. So what we have: FAU, Northwestern in the first round. Northwestern, if they win, has to play UConn in the East region. Illinois playing Morehead State in the East region in the 3-14 matchup. Michigan State in the 8-9 game in the West would have to advance and play North Carolina. And we go around to find Purdue on the 1 line to face the winner of Utah State TCU. And Wisconsin. And I hit all the Big Ten teams there. That's right. Those are all the big teams that made the bracket. I think that's right. Man, I would want to say Purdue, but Utah State is scary. I am not a Purdue hater. I have been a little bit of a Purdue defender this season, quite frankly, from the teams who are just like, you can't get it done in March. You can't get it done in March. And it's not that Utah State is necessarily underseeded. It's a good Utah State team that ranks 48th at KenPom. I'm totally fine with them being an 8 seed. They, according to most projections, they were probably going to land on the 8 line. Lots of people had them as 6s. Lots of people had them as 7s, but it was not surprising to see them on the 8. That being said, Danny Sprinkle is a hell of a coach. He took over that program, and I think they mentioned this actually on the selection show. He came in, it's his first year in Logan, and his entire roster left, either all graduated or transferred out. He has a brand new team, a bunch of guys who have never played before. He brought back 0 points from last year's roster. And he has this team in the NCAA tournament pretty firmly in it, right? On the 8 line, pretty firmly in it, getting an auto bid out of the Mountain West, who, I mean, technically not a power conference, but looked like a power conference this season. And that is a tough matchup for anybody. Really notably, Utah State defends the 3 really, really, really well. That could give Purdue's guards some big problems there. They have, I mean, just an excellent starting center in Great Osborne, who, you know, is going to be able to go down there with Zach Edey and have a real matchup. Great Osborne is shooting nearly 60% on 2s on the season. He's a great rebounder. If you want to pick one of these 1 seeds to lose in the first round, as much of a meme as it is, I'm probably picking Purdue to get knocked off by Utah State. And maybe it's just because I fall in love with the Danny Sprinkle story in Utah, and maybe that's not fair. But that being said, I think if I'm going to take a team to get the furthest, Wisconsin has a real shot at getting knocked out in the first weekend, a real shot at getting knocked out in the first round. Northwestern, look, FAU hasn't been great this season. They've been real up and down, but maybe they're able to recapture something. They get knocked out. The 8-9 game is always a coin flip, right? Anyway, and then they got to go play UConn. And I don't think FAU or Northwestern are getting past UConn. Then you have another 8-9 game and then playing a North Carolina team and a Michigan State team that I think it's fine for them to be on the 9, but that's not really where bracketologists had them placed. They had them more on the 10, some even saying they were an 11. So I have a hard time seeing Michigan State keep up in that 8-9 matchup, even against a pretty good Mississippi State team. But I don't know. Not everybody even had, most people had Mississippi State in the field. I think that 8-9 game is, both teams are terrible, basically, and they're going to get, not terrible, right? Because this NCAA tournament feels pretty good, but I think they'll lose to North Carolina. So that leaves me with Illinois. I think Illinois gets the furthest in the tournament in the Big Ten. That sub-region there, Morehead State is a fine team that they have to play in the first round, but it's not a juggernaut. If Duquesne were to upset BYU, I think that's a good matchup for Illinois. And then BYU is, I mean, a solid team. I'm wondering just how much the long drawn out Big 12 season might ultimately affect them. But if BYU and Illinois play, that's going to be a race to 90, I think. BYU plays more defense than Illinois does, but both those teams can really get out and score. BYU shoots a ton of 3s, though. Their field goal, they shoot and make what is it? Their 3-pointers that they make, of all their field goals, the proportion of 3-point makes to field goal makes is the second highest in the entire country. They rely on the 3-ball a ton. And so if they go to play Illinois and that 3-ball isn't falling, which, not quite a 50-50 chance, but could really do it. BYU shot the heck out of 3 in a lot of games and won that. I think Illinois moves on in that one. And then you go and face an Iowa State team potentially on the 2 line in the Sweet 16 that I think has been fine all year. And I know that I'm going to upset my Big 12 shill father by saying this, but I think it's just like fine. They have a really, really, really good defense coached by TJ Otzelberger there. Was a Wisconsin native if we're talking Wisconsin sports stuff, but I don't know that Iowa State's offense can keep up with the Illinois offense, regardless of how good that defense in Ames is. Because, and maybe I just have recency bias because I just saw Terrence Shannon and Marcus Domask torch my basketball team once again. But I think Illinois is really, really dang good and will do some damage in this NCAA tournament. They're not going to make the Final Four because eventually you're going to need a win where your defense does it for you. And I don't know that they have that. But if I'm taking one team to make it the furthest, I think I'll take Illinois just because of how much that offense can do.
Makes sense. Yeah, for me, I probably would go either with Purdue or Wisconsin, but I definitely see with regards to Illinois being able to get those matchups and be able to make it the furthest. And especially for them that got this win today against us, against the Badgers, and being the Big Ten champions. I think momentum, as you talk about for the Badgers, momentum for Illinois, a good shot to be able to get far. But yeah, I just want to pick your brain a little bit in regards to Big Ten and other stuff brought up here. But yeah, you're doing great stuff. We always enjoy your content, not just here, but other places, of course, wherever people get their podcasts. Always appreciated, and we definitely will be, or I will definitely be seeing you again at Big Cheese, let alone us over here. But yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I'll talk to you soon. That's Stevie K down there. Steve's a great guy. He co-hosts, like I said a little bit earlier on the show. He co-hosts Big Cheese Sports with Bernie Bango. That show goes live on Sundays at 11 Central. They had me on talking today about Wisconsin basketball, Wisconsin hockey, all things. We talked UW Milwaukee basketball. We talked Marquette basketball. We talked all things college basketball. A really exciting day. And I do want to address the fact that he said, maybe Wisconsin can make it the furthest of these Big Ten teams in the NCAA tournament. And if Wisconsin can beat James Madison, I could see it. I really could, especially look, and I know banking on like an upset in another part of the bracket to make the case for your team going further isn't the strongest case. But if Wisconsin makes it out of the first weekend and then has to play Houston or the winner of Nebraska A&M, let's lay out a hypothetical where Nebraska or A&M upsets Houston. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. But Nebraska could go out and shoot the lights out of the three in one of these games. I guess they're not really a good 3-point shooting team, but maybe Keisei Tominaga gets really hot. And they beat a really, really, really good Houston team that was number one in the predictive metrics basically all season long until the last 10 days. And that's a team Wisconsin has beaten before. That's a team Wisconsin had on the ropes in its own arena for 25, 30 minutes. And then a Texas A&M team that is a 9, but I'm very surprised was not closer to the bubble, not closer to one of those 6 teams that landed on the 10 line, because this is a Texas A&M team that ranks 44th at KenPom, a not the best Texas A&M team. And so you have to couch that all with because I know these teams aren't the best, I don't think that they're going to beat Houston. But let's say something like that happens. Whoever comes out of that Brooklyn sub-regional to play them in the Sweet 16, even if it's James Madison, frankly, I think has a really excellent shot at making the Elite Eight in that part. I just don't know that I see it for Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin having to play James Madison feels really hard. A team that has won 31 games, and that says that's a lot for people, right? T3 Bracketology, who we've had on the show, has said some of these teams, they get to the bracket, and if they're one of these mid-major teams who has just won, sometimes you just forget that you're even able to lose games. You end up down a bucket with 4 minutes to go, and you say, what do you mean I'm down? We're just supposed to win. And so then you just go out and do it. It's that muscle memory that on one end doesn't make any sense, but of course makes all the sense in the world when you remember that it's college basketball. It's not anarchy. It's just college basketball. I could see Wisconsin doing it. I could see Wisconsin getting the furthest of these teams, but there's a path. but I think it requires certain things to break their way that I am just not necessarily anticipating. Reminder again, if you want to get in on the conversation, want to talk, we got plenty of brackets to talk, plenty of Wisconsin basketball Big Ten tournament to talk as we go on talking about this. Because Wisconsin lost in the Big Ten tournament final today. A little bit of a rough game for them. But, man, if that Wisconsin defense would have just shown up, it would have been so fun. Not that I think it would have changed their spot in this bracket at all, but I really thought Wisconsin was going to win that one for a second there when Wisconsin was up 10. Then Wisconsin's up 9, and then Max Klesman exits the game. Well, it was really hard. Would love to bounce thoughts, ideas out of that Big Ten tournament championship game off of some folks if they do want to talk about it. If you want to, you can either click the link in the description of this show on YouTube, where we are live. Also on the website formerly known as Twitter, now known as X. You can find the StreamYard link there to click to join us in the replies. Otherwise, we will continue taking your YouTube comments as they come in. I was about to look something up, and I totally forgot what I was about to look up ahead of this. I want to check out some of these other intriguing matchups on the bracket here. And I know that we focused a lot on the right side of the bracket with the South region and the Midwest region. I want to try to sneak over to the East a little bit. I just gave that bottom half of the bracket quite a bit of love, talking about Illinois, talking about Iowa State. Maybe we got to sneak into the West here and talk about the North Carolina 1 seed, Arizona 2 seed region. In the West, this is some Wisconsin Badgers basketball in 2015 vibes, where Wisconsin got the 1 seed, got shifted out west just through, when you're the 4th 1 seed, you get the one that's left over. You get the one that's left over out of East, South, West, Midwest, and North Carolina's the 4th 1 seed. UConn was obviously going east the entire time. Houston, obviously going south the entire time. Purdue, obviously going to the Midwest the entire time. That leaves North Carolina to go west. The thing I don't like when making the snake bracket, though, is that this puts the 1 against the top 2 seed. And if the top 2 seed, that's the bracket principle. That's the way it goes down. There's not really wiggle room there. When that happens and the top 2 is a West team, that means that you've not really rewarded the 1 seed in that regional, given a scenario where those 2 teams do make it both to the regional final. It's not something I love, not something that I think makes a ton of sense. I get that you want to stick to the bracketing principles, and I do like that. But it just feels like North Carolina would much rather play Tennessee again, or Marquette out west, or Iowa State out west. And it's not that, you're taking Marquette out of the South region. It's not that you've done Marquette a huge favor by sending them to the South region. It's not that you've done Iowa State a huge favor by sending them to the East region. Maybe Tennessee likes the Midwest a little bit more than they would like to go west. But for North Carolina to get Arizona in the West region, I think is a little bit tough. Another thing. Oh, man. And I know and I understand why they're not there, but I really would have liked to see St. Peter's on the 16 line matched up with Purdue just for fun, because the narrative all week leading up to that game would just be, I would love it and I would hate it, because at a certain point it would just become insufferable. Of course, Purdue lost to St. Peter's in the Sweet 16 2 tournaments ago. And you do that, and then you lose to Fairleigh Dickinson the next year, and Purdue has a reputation. The spicy content, the Purdue fans shamelessly arguing back with bad faith, trolls on the internet would have been very funny to me. Would have been amusing to watch happen. I don't know. I would have liked it. Let's talk about a little bit of the East region while I'm at it. I know that I said that I want to talk about the West, but I think the East region is fascinating on the top half in particular. You have UConn playing the winner of FAU or Northwestern in the second round. Northwestern, I think, is a solid team. They're going to be happy that they're in the NCAA tournament. Got to play an FAU team, and then you got to play a San Diego State team, potentially in the Sweet 16. 3 of the 4 Final Four teams from last season, all in that top region, and all announced back to back right at the beginning of the selection show while you were at it. It was very surprising to me that they allowed that to happen. I guess not allowed that to happen, but I guess surprised that that's the way the bracket broke down more so. And that San Diego State Auburn game in the second round of the weekend is going to be an absolute barn burner. I think that game is going to be a ton of fun to watch. And I guess that's if, San Diego State gets past UAB and Auburn gets past Yale. But I'm not super worried about either of those things. The Ivy League had some quite good teams this year, but UAB was a bit thief. UAB is not really supposed to be in this tournament. 23-11 on the year out of the American. They are ranked, 106th according to KenPom. Not the best team overall. I want to pull up the team stats, player charge, team charge, program charge, team bubbles. I want to find the team sheets for having a hard time. I am not good at navigating Bart Torvik. For as often as I am on that site, I can never remember where to find anything. NCAA team sheet ranks. There we go. And it's, Bart, great Wisconsin alum. I am just an idiot and cannot find anything. UAB, I think San Diego State will be able to dispatch of them. The San Diego State team is not as good as it was last season, but still a quite good team. Auburn having to play Yale. Yale, the best team sheet metric it has is in BPI, the resume metric at 63rd. Otherwise, they're in the high 70s to low to mid 80s in some of these other metrics, particularly the predictives, which 81st in the net, 79th in 81st in the net. Oh, sorry. Oh, God, I cannot speak. BPI, not a predictive metric, or not a resume metric, a predictive metric, 63 at BPI, 81st at KenPom. That's not right. Oh, yes, it is. 79th in KPI, 85th in strength of record. So not a ton to show for it. I guess in BPI, you obviously have a pretty good metric there overall, but not just. This isn't. I don't think this Yale team is what this Princeton team was last year, the 15 seed that got to the NCAA tournament Sweet 16. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think we're going to get San Diego State and Auburn in the second round of the tournament. And I mean, a couple of guys, and I know I go back to this over and over again, just two really, really awesome coaches. Bruce Pearl, another guy that has won basically everywhere that he's gone over there at Auburn, and his team, they're going to scare some folks. They are a 4. They are the 4th ranked team at KenPom. This Auburn team is incredibly dangerous. They just don't really have the resume to be up much higher than they are. That's the thing. When you compare the resume metrics to their predictive metrics, the jump is, I mean, still not even this high, though, is the thing. They are 8th at KPI, 11th in strength of record. Both of those still deserving of at least a 3 seed, if not a 2. And then at BPI and KenPom, both 4. So, like, this Auburn team is dang good. And a potential UConn Auburn matchup in the Sweet 16, I think, is something Danny Hurley wants nothing to do with. Auburn has a top 10 offense and a top 5 defense. They force the lowest effective field goal percentage of any team in the country. They're a top 10 3-point defense. They're a top 10. They're a top 1 2-point defense. They get up on the ball and have a ton of blocks. Johnny Broome is one of the absolute best players in the country. His block rate is awesome, 25th in the country. He draws a ton of fouls. He gets to the free throw line a ton. Maybe he could make more of them, but he's another guy shooting nearly 60% from 2, grabs more rebounds than almost anybody in the country. He is a 6'10", 240-pound absolute menace. Someone that I do not think anybody else wants anything to mess with. That Auburn team is just so good, and they play at such a high pace. It's a lot of fun when you are watching that Auburn team. And then on the other side there, the team that they could be playing in the second round, San Diego State, coached by Brian Dutcher. I bet he hates this draw because he plays very slow. They have a top 10 defense, but not the best offense. It's going to be hard for San Diego State to match up with that Auburn team. They have another really great player in Jaden Lee, who is also their starting center. These two guys, I mean, in another year that's not a Zach Edey-led year, could be playing with some, like, who should be the real national player of the year stakes on the line. Basically, these are two of the best players in the country overall. Another guy who gets to the free throw line at will, Jaden Lee, sorry, is absolutely phenomenal. A team that doesn't make many free 3-pointers at all, but does chase teams off of the 3-point line. They don't let teams make threes. They get off a lot of attempts, but are really good at defending, good looks from 3. A San Diego State team that I think in another bracket on another draw maybe has a better chance at getting to the Sweet 16. I don't know that they would have wanted to play Bama either, the other 4 seed from the SEC there. I mean, Kansas is not the strongest 4 seed, of course. Duke is fine and is also Duke, and they have more talent than anybody in the country. These 4-5 matchups are just brutal in most cases. And another one of these cases where you have a fast-paced SEC team against a slower-paced West Coast-based team is St. Mary's, Alabama, potentially in that second round, also on the 4-5 line, like I mentioned. Nate Oates, of course, one of the best coaches in the country. His team flies up and down the court, and they're fun. They were, had a little bit of an up and down season. They struggled really early. They lost 5 of 7 between the for a month stretch there back in November, stretching into December. Stumbled a little bit down the stretch to end the regular season, but had a really good year otherwise. And they're top 10 in almost every offensive metric that you can imagine. That's a really good team that plays really, really fast. A fun brand of basketball to watch. And Nate Oates is of that analytics brain that says you're either taking threes or you're shooting layups, and that's the offense. And it's not that the St. Mary's Gales do something really different from those kind of preferred shots under Randy Bennett, but they do that at an incredibly slow pace. The 358th ranked adjusted tempo in the country, according to KenPom, and that defense is better than Alabama's is, to be sure. St. Mary's has a top 3 effective field goal percentage force in the country, a top 20 defense in the country. Alabama doesn't even crack the top 100 in adjusted defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. That's one of these fast-paced teams against a slow-paced team that I don't think anybody on either side is really excited about, because they worry that they might be on the wrong side of the battle for pace in that one. Otherwise, I'm just excited. Would love to hear anybody who has thoughts about what they are most excited about in this one, in this NCAA tournament. If you have thoughts, hit the link in the YouTube show description, the reply to this video live on X. Click that link there, call in. Would love to take questions, thoughts, whatever your basketball thoughts are on the day, talking anything conference tournaments or from the actual bracket reveal as things progress and in just, what was it, how many hours away are we? Monday is 24, 48. I mean, 48 hours from the first 4 in Dayton, at least. And I love those Dayton games. I know lots of people would prefer, just the 64 team format or even the 65 team format that they had to go to after adding another auto bid to the bracket without wanting to take away an at large when we added an additional conference into the sport. But I love the first 4. I think it's a great appetizer for the week. You get 2 days of, solid games at least. Like those 16 seeds, they are out there playing basketball on a stage that they will never forget. And for you to go out and get a win means a lot to those programs. It means real money for those programs. It is, program changing for some athletic departments, for some conferences to be able to gather those wins in the NCAA tournament, regardless of if it's in the first 4, right? Your unit is still an NCAA tournament unit. By winning that game, the check still cashes. Should be a ton of fun. Yeah, I want to hit on Wisconsin and the Big Ten tournament final. I want to talk about that relatively quickly, as I have teased it several times during this show as we've been live. But Wisconsin, of course, falls in that Big Ten tournament final. And with, how long was there to go? With, what was it, 13 minutes? With 14:38 remaining. Wisconsin up 9. Max Klesmit limps out. Next thing you know, Illinois is up 5, and wasn't over because Wisconsin tied the game again late. It was close in there, but that run that let Illinois back in the game was just brutal to watch. It really felt like Wisconsin had something building there that they had a genuine opportunity to capitalize on and put the game away. But as Wisconsin has to take out one of its best defenders, just couldn't hang on. A couple of guys in the Wisconsin game that I thought played really, really, really well are, well, AJ Storr, of course. I thought he took a couple of bad shots. He had 20 attempts from the field, made 7 of them. You want a little bit of a better scoring effort from AJ Storr in terms of shots made. Wisconsin, man, did the Badgers struggle down the stretch in this one. 0 of 4 from the field to end the game. 1 of 7 from the field to end the game. But in a game where you had some of your best players not get to play many minutes in the first half, Max Klesmit had 11 first half minutes. Tyler Wall, 9 first half minutes. Those two guys fouled out really, really, really early. And Wisconsin still stayed in it, only down 1 at the half. A big day. And then Tyler Wall gets another BS foul. Tyler Wall. The calls that he has fouled out on the last 2 days. Certainly not my favorite whistles blown by a referee in recent memory. It was not super awesome. But a couple things that I think we saw early in this game that gave me a lot of confidence in this team and being able to actually compete in this one, because I was worried that Wisconsin would just kind of have the doors blown off of them in this game. You ride that high off of beating Purdue, and you have to go out and try to respond again the next day. And that's really difficult against a fast-paced team, a team that has played 1 fewer game than you this week. So you got 40 more minutes of action under your belt, weighing down your legs. A Badgers team that was a little banged up. Tyler Wall wasn't questionable in this game, but he looked like he was a little bit hobbled at the end of the Purdue game. Chucky Hepburn missed an entire game this tournament. John Blackwell looks like he's banged up. Max Klesmit ends up being banged up and exits this game for a little while. I genuinely think John Blackwell is banged up, though. He played 11 minutes in this game, had kind of a rough go, 0 of 2 from the field. He had 11 minutes in this game, and it's not because he was in foul trouble, right? He only had two personal fouls. It was John Blackwell just not having his legs under him, something that we've seen the last couple of games from John Blackwell, who I think has otherwise been an excellent performer for the Badgers. But like I said, one of the things that I saw early in this one, Kamari McGee, not a huge difference maker on the offensive end in this game, of course, but he has 9 minutes, gets most of those. I mean, all but a few seconds, basically, in the first half. And what he did in the first half was come off the bench and immediately provide a defensive spark for the Badgers. Got off early, grabbed a steal that leads to a AJ Storr wide open 3-point make in transition, which I thought was awesome. And a couple of possessions later, Storr, right before the under 12 timeout, basically, I think 1 or 2 possessions before the under 12 timeout, he makes an awesome bucket after that too, right? So like the Kamari McGee steal early moves into the offense, gives AJ Storr a little bit of confidence that translates over to more buckets later, because AJ Storr went to the hoop on a baseline drive and tried to attack the rim. He posted up, had a shot blocked, but he stayed with it with the offensive rebound and picked back up, put it through, and put the bucket in. That meant a lot for this team. I wish AJ Storr had maybe gone to the rim a little bit more. His 7 3-point attempts, I thought, were 1 or 2 too many. There were times clearly where AJ Storr was saying, I'm going to play hero in this one. Times where AJ Storr threw the ball off the glass, trying to get his own put back dunk. An unreal athletic performance from AJ Storr, but not able to complete. However, that leads to a Carter Gilmore offensive rebound. And Carter Gilmore, the last couple of days, Carter Gilmore has been playing the best basketball of his career. A guy who found himself outside of the rotation for a couple of weeks because Greg Gard decides to go the Marcus Ilver route instead. And then Marcus Ilver does not get playing time in this game. And I know I'm guilty of it. I know that I'm a little bit guilty of saying maybe Marcus Ilver should get more minutes. I had no problems not seeing Marcus Ilver in this one. He has not played really as well as I had thought that he would, as well as other people that I talked to have seen him practice say that they think he would play. He just struggles doing anything inside the 3-point arc. He looks terrified of dribbling a basketball, and that makes you a really difficult player to do much with in a lineup that very, very, very often goes 4 out, wants to bring 4 players out on the perimeter and kind of camp them there, and you want to swing the ball around. Marcus Ilver as a guy who is nothing basically more than maybe I can do something at the rim if I get the ball there, or I can put up a 3 when I'm there, but the 3s aren't even falling for Marcus Ilver, which makes that very difficult to keep you on the floor, especially when your defense is quite questionable. But Carter Gilmore, man, he's been defending his tail off the last 2 days in that backup 4 spot for Tyler Wall. For Wisconsin to lose Tyler Wall so early in the second half, and it didn't totally matter, I thought was big. And Carter Gilmore didn't have the best plus minus on the day, minus 13, but he did provide something real big on the offensive end, particularly in the first half. 2 of 3 shooting. He has 7 points. And I mean, 2, 3 offensive rebounds. I'm starting to get a little bit sad that Wisconsin blew this game, given how strong the performance was in some aspects from this team. And it's not that anybody had like an absolute banger of a day. I guess Chucky Hepburn would be the one where he's 7 of 13 from the field. He has 20 points. He is a menace defensively. Has 3 offensive rebounds himself. Has 2 back-to-back possessions where he puts down the bucket and 1 picking up the free throw after the fact for a 3-point play. Yeah, this could have been another Chucky Hepburn game. I'm a little bit sad that it wasn't another Chucky Hepburn game. Plus, how awesome is it where, like, the sequence where Chucky Hepburn backs down Dawkins, gets the bucket. Then you go on the other end, and Max Klesmit finally forces Marcus Domask to miss a shot after Marcus Domask had gone seemingly unconscious. He and Terrence Shannon could not miss. I think it was both teams were 7 of 7 at that point in the second half. Something absolutely stupid. Or combined, they were 7 of 7 until that finally takes a miss. And then AJ Storr chucks up an open 3 in transition. I think AJ Storr, and this is my complaint about before, is that some of the 3-point looks are really good, especially when he gets to take them in transition sometimes. But it can't be all the time. And it just feels like there's 1 or 2 possessions where he goes to make the play in transition that I kind of wish they would have back, because he just doesn't quite have as good of a handle on the ball that I would hope for him to have. And if you're not going to have that, it's hard for me to say, yeah, go out and do whatever you want in transition every time. But after that, AJ Storr open three in transition, miss. Chucky Hepburn grabs an offensive rebound, takes a turnaround jumper to make it, and gets the foul and high fives the fan courtside. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's big. That's big. A big momentum shift at the time. And man, I really thought they were going to do it. I really thought they were going to do it. Unfortunately, now they have to head to the NCAA tournament, play a difficult matchup against a team that has won 31 games this season. A James Madison team that ran roughshod on the Sun Belt Conference this season. It's going to be a popular 5-12 upset because it's not going to be San Diego State UAB. When they announced the first 5-12 matchup between San Diego State and UAB showed up on the screen and I went, damn it. And my girlfriend is like, what do you have against those Dragons? And I had to be like, I wanted UAB to play Wisconsin because that's, I think, pretty clearly the worst 12 seed. Unless I am wrong. No, Grand Canyon is great. Man, St. Mary's Grand Canyon, that's going to be a game. Again, two awesome coaches. Randy Bennett, Bryce Drew. That's an awesome coaching matchup. In Spokane, too. That is a fun game on the 5-12. Gonzaga, McNeese, the other 5-12. Yeah, dude. Maybe Wisconsin didn't get the best 12. I think it's got to be McNeese or James Madison. But UAB is definitely the worst. And I definitely wanted UAB. Yeah, that stinks. That's going to be difficult. All right. I think we are going quite long here. Babbling brackets, babbling basketball. We got a lot of babbling basketball to do the rest of this week. So stay tuned. We'll continue doing this. Thanks to Steve, as always, for jumping on. It's the second time I got to talk to him today. I think we're going to go so that I can go figure out who's going to make the Final Four. I'll just take chalk. All the 1 seeds. No. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I don't want to, but I kind of want to take Utah State to beat Purdue in the second round, just for fun. But thank you for listening to the Scotty Six Pack podcast, our very long episode where I kind of just ramble about the bracket and ramble about random college basketball teams and ramble about these coaches that I think have done an awesome job this season in these mid-major conferences that are just a ton of fun to watch. And like, it's the best time of the year. It's the best time of the year. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, we'll talk to you about some more stuff, some more basketball. We're going to be talking Wisconsin women's hockey yet, which is in the Frozen Four, 2 wins away from a national title. We broke down Wisconsin's win to get to the Frozen Four yesterday in the feed. And if you are unaware of what the feed is, because you're watching this live on X, you can find the feed either on YouTube, youtube.com/@Scani6pack, or by searching the Scani Six Pack podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're talking all things Wisconsin sports. We're going to keep talking Wisconsin basketball. We got to get into a little bit more NFL draft stuff in the next couple of weeks as the draft approaches, but it's March, it's madness. The men's hockey team is going to be in the NCAA tournament very soon as well. We're going to break it all down right here on the Scotty Six Pack. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button. Leave a kind review on your podcast platform of choice. We'll talk to you all again very soon on Wisconsin.